I analyzed over 70,000 games from Steam in order to answer one question. Are video games getting worse? Because at this point, I'm personally affected by it. So I finally had enough and wrote a script to read reviews from every game on Steam and analyze whether games truly are getting worse on a large scale. And the script basically works because Steam assigns app IDs to every game when it is added to the website, and by brute forcing this, I could basically just go to the community and store pages for all games and get their information. For the app IDs that did not have a game assigned, it just redirects you to the Steam homepage. And sure, some store information on Steam is not factually correct, like this game that was apparently released in 1970 but actually released in 2018. But these are easily taken care of when we are looking at more than 70,000 games. And with this, we can get some juicy information about the games themselves and answer questions like the average rating across all games on Steam, what can we learn from the best and worst games of all time, and if there is a relation between game genres as well as price and their ratings. So let's start by looking at the total number of games on Steam according to their release dates, and we can directly tell that after the initial dip in 2019, the graph followed its natural progression with its highest peak in 2022, with more than 6,800 games released in that 1 year. Now if we look at how these releases were rated, we can directly tell that most of the games were rated either positive or very positive, with mixed, or what some might call them, polarizing games, being the third most common category. So the overall reviews from all games on Steam is between neutral to good, which is good news to begin with. Now if we look at how many positive versus negatively reviewed games came out every year, we can directly see that 2022 was the year with the highest number of positively rated games. These include Elden Ring, that also won Game of the Year, Stray, which basically every content creator was talking about. Everything about this game is perfect. Vampire Survivors, which is constantly in the top 10 highly rated games on Steam, Postal, Brain Damaged, V Rising, and a whole lot of hidden object games. So 2022 was definitely a great year. Now if we look at the negatively reviewed games, we can see a steep ascent every year with a peak at 2018, after which the amount of negatively reviewed games actually decreases. So what exactly happened in 2018? Well, games like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the VR experience, which had limiting camera control, NBA 2K19, although the community itself has kind of a love-hate relationship with the game, so I don't know if we can really trust the reviews.
Glad to see nothing's changed.
Airport Simulator 2019, honestly, super boring. You drive from point A to point B in a vehicle of your choosing, rinse and repeat. And probably the only thing worse than this game is the one released in 2013. Terrible. I've little more to say other than that. It's not even an airport simulator, it's a ground crew simulator. This game is only fun if you're making fun of it in a YouTube video. So 2018 was definitely worse than average, but if we go back to the plot with the total number of games released, we can tell that even if 2022 had the most number of games released, 2018 had the most number of negatively reviewed games. So I guess things have been looking good lately. And this is also true by the percentages here, where 6% of all games released were rated mostly negative, as opposed to less than 3% in the years following. But what about the outliers, the best and worst games of all time? For that, we can also get a list of the top 250 and bottom 100 rated games to check these stats as well. And even if everyone thinks games from their childhood were the best of all time, there is a consistent peak in the 2020s with some of the most highly rated games coming from 2023. These include Baldur's Gate 3, which basically took choice-based games to another level with its storyline, gameplay and characters. It's like playing D&D in real life, except your players don't cancel last minute. I like the part where the game doesn't have microtransactions. My work is really cutting into my Baldur's Gate 3 time. Should I quit? You can convince bosses to delete themselves. 10 out of 10. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Resident Evil 4, Steam Engine Simulator, which is developed by a very talented engineer on YouTube. Finally, Steam on Steam, does Gabe know? And a whole lot of hidden cat games. But what about the games that ranked at the bottom of the barrel? The worst of them all? Well, I guess even if 2023 produced a lot of the best games, it also produced some of the worst reviewed games, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Quest for Balance, which is basically a puzzle game with very bad camera angles. NBA 2K24, which because of constant patching led to it being dead within 2 months. Payday 3, which because of server issues became increasingly frustrating. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which has a huge cheating problem. Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2, which has a lot of connection issues. The Day Before, which due to connection issues and poor performance led to the game being dead within 3 days. Also the studio shut down. And that brings us to Overwatch 2. I mean, it is kinda tricky to talk about the game because the game does have a lot of players. I mean, it's no Counter-Strike 2 or Valorant, but I definitely wouldn't call it dead. Although, the players definitely aren't happy. Overwatch, overwhelmingly negative. I know Overwatch 2 gets a lot of hate, but I personally don't think it gets enough. I cried at the part when Reaper said bye 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 and locked the new heroes behind the battle pass and scrapped the story mode. Truly the game of all time. Thank you Activision Blizzard. Also, is there any connection between the game types and the ratings? Because Steam also has user-defined tags, we can also use these in our analysis. It turns out that single-player and indie games are on the rise, and also some of the most polarizing. But don't you worry, massively multiplayer games will always be the most hated, with 8% of games having that tag having overall negative ratings. But what is interesting is that multiplayer games had the most amount of mixed reviews from 2021 to 2023. This is because of reasons like server issues and cheating which we encountered before. Every game I go into crashes, DirectX errors, cheaters everywhere. I spent $100 on this game just to be disappointed continuously, seriously considering a full refund. But it's been a couple of months since its release. I think the issues must be fixed. The review was posted today. As difficult as fixing these issues are, the rest of the issues with multiplayer games like the actual interface as well as preserving the mechanics of the franchise can be fixed over a little more cooking time according to some. But what about the prices? Does that have anything to do with the ratings? I mean, who would hate on a free game, right? Wrong. Free-to-play games have more negative ratings by percentage than the ones priced till €50. Even if the total amount of free-to-play games is actually a little less than games within the €10 range. And this decrease goes on till €40, after which the amount of negatively reviewed games increases for each price bracket with the maximum at the €90 to €100 mark, with about 10% of games being reviewed negatively in this price bracket. And the total number of free-to-play games seems to be on the decline up to 2017 as the average price for games reaches an all-time high of almost €12. So are video games getting worse? Well, some of the worst reviewed games did come from last year, but you also have more games than ever being released every year. A lot of them are free. The average rating across the last couple of years was mixed to very positive, and some of the best rated games did come from the last couple of years, so I really don't think so.